Okay, we are doing Mathematics B, the 2013, June 2013 paper for Unit 3, Edexcel, and Unit 3 takes in number, algebra, geometry 2, and it is also a calculator paper. So cracking on with the first question. First question says that the cost of 6 cups is £7.80 and they want us to work out the cost of 10 cups. So first of all, we found out what 1 cup is, and 1 cup is £7.80 divided by 6. And we can see that £7.80 divided by 6 is £1.30. 1 cup. So that means that 10 cups equals £1.30 multiplied by 10. And our answer for that is £13. Moving on to the second question. They've given us a triangle here on a piece of grid paper with the point A marked here as well. They want us to enlarge the shape with a scale factor of 3 from the center A. So we do this in points. If we take this point here and we divide it up, so we have this point here, we have this point here, and we have this point here, and we work with our points when we're doing enlargements. So we work with this point here, and we can work out that this point here is 1, 2 along and 1 point up from the center A. So to do our new shape and enlarge it by a scale factor of 3, we go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and up 1, 2, and 3. So that's where that one is going to be there. Our next point that we do is we go along 1, 2, so we go along 2, and we go up 1, 2, 3. So for this next one, we're going to go along 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're going to go up 9 spots because we went up 3 here. So we multiply everything by 3 because it's our scale factor of 3. So we go along here. So we went along 2 here, and we're going to go along 6 to here, and we're going to go up 9 because we went up 3 here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we take our last point and we mark it here. So we go along 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we went up 1. So we're going to go along 15 this time. So we're going to go along 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And we go up 3 because we went up 1. And when you multiply 1 by 3, you go up 3. It's 1, 2, 3. The last thing you do is just join the dots. And you should be using a ruler for this as well. So you just join up the points. And the marking scheme for these two questions are, you get 1 mark for being able to tell what 1 cup is, and another mark for finding out what 10 cups is, giving you a total of 2 marks. For the second question, you get 3 full marks for getting the right triangle. Question 3 is testing your knowledge on how to use a calculator. They want you to find the answer and they want you to write down exactly what you have on your calculator display. So the first thing you do is you find the square root of 40 over 9/6, and that equals 6.4. The next thing they want you to do is subtract 2.48 from 7.1. That equals 4.62. And when you divide 6.4 by 4.62, you get 1.4 3, 8, 5, 2, 8, 1, 3, 8, 5. For question 4, they tell you that there is a flower bed in the shape of a circle, and the diameter of the flower bed is 2.4 meters. They also say that Sue's going to put plastic strip around the edge of the flower bed, or otherwise the circumference, and the plastic strip is sold in 2-meter rolls. How many rolls of plastic strip does Sue need to buy for this? So the first thing we need to do is find out the circumference. Circumference of a circle is equal to diameter times pi. This case, this means that we do 2.4 times pi, and that equals 7.539822369 meters. So that means that all of the circumference of the flower bed is 7.539 meters. She also tells us that she wants to put plastic strip around this, and plastic strip is sold in 2 meters. So we take this number here and we divide it by 2. And that gives us a total of 3.769 rolls. And that's the number of rolls that would be needed, exact number of rolls that would be needed to go around this. But however, the shop will not sell you rolls in anything less than 2-meter rolls. So what we do is we round up, and that means she will need 4 rolls of plastic. For question 3, the marking scheme is as follows. You get 1 mark for either 6.4 or 4.62, and you get another mark for reading the numbers off your calculator, giving you a total of 2 marks. Question 4, they give you 1 mark for finding the circumference. They give you 1 mark for dividing by 2. They give you 1 mark for finding out the exact circumference, and then they give you another mark for knowing the exact rolls of plastic. So that's another mark there, and that is a total of 4 marks. Question 5 is the algebra question within the exam. First question is just to do with substitution. So they give us an equation which is k equals 3e plus 5. And they tell us that e is equal to minus 2. So we can say that k equals 3 times minus 2 plus 5. And that equals minus 6 plus 5 equals minus 1. The second part of that question is about collecting like terms. So we're going to try and get all the y's on one side, and we're going to try and get all the numbers on the other side. So the first thing you do is you take away minus 2y from both sides. And that leaves us with 2y plus 3 equals 14. Next thing we're going to do, remembering we want to get y on its own. We want to get y on its own and on one side, numbers on the other side also. We're going to take away 3 from each side. So that leaves us on this with 2y equals 11. Remember, we still want to get y on its own, so we're going to divide both sides by 2. We can cross off our 2 here, and that leaves us with y equals 5.5. part C is we expand the brackets and then solve the equation. So 3 times x is 3x, 3 times minus 5 is minus 15, and we say it's equal to 21. Remembering again, we want to get x on its own and all the numbers on the other side on their own. So we add 15 to this side and we add 15 to this side. That will leave us with 3x equals 36. This time we divide by 3 on both sides and cross off our 3's, and that means x equals 12. And the final part of that question is testing our inequality knowledge. So remember, reading this here, it's minus 3 is less than n, and n is less than 4. So reading these signs here, we know that n will be greater than minus 3, and we're looking for integers, which are whole numbers, and we know that n is less than 4. So we know that it's every integer in between minus 3 and 4, not including either of them because none of these say it's equal. So our integers are going to be minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Marking scheme for question 5 is you get 1 mark for substituting minus 2 into the equation, and you get another mark for solving the equation, for collecting the like terms, giving you a total of 2. Second part, you get another mark for substituting, and then you get your final mark for solving the equation. Third part, you get 1 mark for expanding the bracket, and you get 1 mark for solving the equation. And then finally, you get 2 marks in the final part for knowing that there are 6 integers between minus 3 and 4. Question 6 is a bearings question, quite a straightforward one. They tell us that boat T is on a bearing of 060 degrees from boat B, which means it's on a bearing of 60 degrees from boat B. And it also says that boat T is on a bearing of 285 degrees from boat C. In the space above, they want us to draw an accurate diagram to show the position of boat T. We mark the position of boat T with a cross and label it T. So the first thing we do is we know that it's a bearing of 60 degrees from boat B. So we get our protractor and we line it up exactly on each other's line. And we also know that it said it's 060. So from here, you can mark 60 degrees from here. We can draw a line from B through that point up through there. The next part says that T is on a bearing of 285 from boat C. So it also means that from boat C, the bearing of boat T is somewhere up around here. But the first thing we can do is we can draw and extend our north line. So from here all the way down to here is 180 degrees, because we know that is 180 degrees in a straight line, which this is. The next thing we do is we have 285 minus 180, and this will help us find the rest of the bearing from this line here to help us find C. So 5 take away 0 is 5, 8 take away 8 is 0, and 2 take away 1 is 1. So we know we're looking for a bearing from here of 105 degrees, which is just about there. Next thing we do from there is we draw our line from X through to that point. And we know that here is where T is. The marking scheme for this question is you get 1 mark for drawing the line from B, You get 1 mark for drawing the line from C, and you get 1 mark for marking it out T with an X. And that gives you a total of 3 marks. Question 7 tells us that Petra has booked a family holiday. The total cost of the holiday was £3,500 plus VAT at 20%. Petra paid £900 of the total cost when she booked the holiday, and then she paid the rest of the total cost in 6 equal monthly payments. How much was each monthly payment? So, first of all, we need to find out the total cost. Total cost equals £3,500 plus 20% in VAT. 20% VAT equals 3,500 multiplied by 0.2, and that equals, using our calculator, we know that that equals £700. So we know that the total cost equals 3,500 plus £700, and that equals £4,200. Then they tell us that she pays £900 off straight away. So that leaves us with £3,300 left to pay. And if there's 6 equal monthly payments left to pay, we take our 3,300 and divide it by 6 for each of the months, and we know that this comes out as £550 for each monthly instalment. The marking scheme for this question is you get 1 mark for finding out what 20% of the initial cost is. You get another mark for adding the 20% to our initial cost and getting 4,200. You get another mark for subtracting 900, giving you 3,300. You get another mark for dividing by 6, and then your final mark is the answer of 550, giving you a total of 5 marks. Question 8 tests our ability to write algebraic equations. So, first of all, they tell us that Dan has some marbles. Ellie has twice as many marbles as Dan, and they've told us that Frank has 15 marbles. They also told us that the total of the marbles is 63. We want to find out how many marbles Dan has. So the first thing we do is Dan has some marbles. Let's say that that's X. Then they tell us that Ellie has twice as many marbles as Dan, so let's say that she has 2X. And then they say that Frank has 15 marbles. Then they say that the total marbles of this plus this plus this equals 63 marbles. So if we just stick addition signs in here, we can say that this expression equals 63. Next thing we do is we simplify our expression. So that means x plus 2x is 3x plus 15 equals 63. Next thing we do is we just solve our equation quite simply. So we can take away 15 from both sides, and that will leave us with 3x equals 48. Then it's just a matter of dividing both sides by 3. X equals 48 divided by 3, or 16. Dan has 16 marbles. The marking scheme for this is as follows. You get 1 mark for the initial equation of x plus 2x plus 15 equals 63. You get another mark for subtracting our 15, and then you get the third mark for solving the equation of 16. Question 9 is a simple comparison of weights and prices. Comes up a lot of the time. So it tells us ketchup is sold in 3 different size bottles. Small bottle is 342 for 88p, 570 grams for £1.95, and then we have a big bottle of 1500 grams for £3.99. Now, they want us to work out which bottle is the best value for money, and we must show our working. So, for the first one, first thing we do is we find out how much each bottle is per pence. For each penny, how many grams of ketchup do we get for every penny? So, our first one is, and it's a small bottle, we can say it is 342 grams divided by 88p. And that equals 3.8863 grams for every penny. Medium bottle and at this point I will point out that £1.95 is the same as saying 195p. So we just take 570 grams and divide it by 195, and that gives us a total of 2.92307 grams. So for every penny in the medium bottle you get 2.92 grams. And in the large bottle, and I will say this again, 3.99 pence, or £3.99p is the same as 399p. Excuse me. So we take our 1500 grams and divide it by 399 pence, and that equals 3.7593 grams for a penny. The next thing we do is we just look at which one is the biggest, and we can see clearly that 3.8863 grams is the biggest. So we say that the smallest bottle is the best value. The marking scheme is you get 1 mark for knowing what each bottle is per penny. You get 1 mark for being able to compare at least 2 bottles. You get another mark for being able to compare all 3 bottles with correct answers. And your final mark is stating which one is the best value for money. Question 10 tests our knowledge of Pythagoras. Using Pythagoras, we know to find this side here, GJ, we add this side squared plus this side squared, and then we find the square root of our answer. So first thing we do is write it out. So it's 24.5 squared plus 10.6 squared. That gives us an answer of 712.61 centimeters. However, we're not finished just yet. That equals GJ all squared. So to find what GJ is equal to the square root of 712.61. And we know that that is 12 26.694 centimeters. They want it to one decimal place, so we can say that it is 26.7 centimeters to one decimal place. Our next part uses our knowledge of SOHCAHTOA. We know that in this right angle triangle, that this side here is our hypotenuse. And we're looking for this angle here, x. So we know straight away that this side here is the adjacent side. Using SOHCAHTOA, we can see that the two values, adjacent and hypotenuse, can be used for the cosine. So we can write a quick equation that says the cosine of x is equal to 7, which is the adjacent, over 18. And we want to find out what x is to one decimal place. So using our calculator, we can input the inverse of cos of 7 over 18 equals x. And that equals 67.114 degrees. To one decimal place, it is 67.1 degrees. The marking scheme for this question for part A is you get 1 mark for squaring both sides and adding them. You get 1 mark for finding the square root, and then you get 1 mark for rounding to one decimal place, giving you 3 marks altogether. The second part, you get 1 mark for knowing that cos of x equals 7 over 18. You get 1 mark for knowing about the inverse cos of 7 over 18. And you get 1 mark for having your answer in the range 67.1 to 67.17. Question 11 is a question about trial and improvement. It says that the equation x cubed minus 6x equals 84 and has a solution of between 4 and 5. And they want us to use trial and improvement to find the solution. The good thing about it is we only have to find it to one decimal place, and they want us to show all our working. So the first thing we do is we show that it is actually, the solution is between 4 and 5. So our first value for x should be 4, and our working should look like this. So it's going to be 4 in for every time there's an x. So it's going to be 4 cubed minus 6 times 4 equals, and at this point doing it on our calculator we can see that it equals 40. Next thing we do is we input x equals 5. So for every time there's an x we put 5 into it, and our equation equals 5 cubed minus 6 times 5. That equals 95. All the while we're still saying that it's too high and too low. So 40 is clearly too low. And 95 is definitely higher than 84. Next thing we do is we put x equal to 4.5. And we can see that this will help us see whether or not it's closer to 4 or 5. So we put 4.5 in for our x's, and we put it equal to cubed, times it by 6, and that will equal 64.125. And that we can see is still too low. Next one I did was we put it in, since it's quite low, I would have gone up to 4.7. Putting 4.7 into our equation, we can see that 4.7 will give us a total of 75.625, and this is still too low. Next one I did was 4.8. 4.8 cubed minus 6 times 4.8 equals 81.792. Still too low. Next one we put in will be 4.9. 4.9 cubed minus 6 times 4.9 equals 84.98. That we can see is too high. So we know that the value of x lies somewhere between 4.8 and 4.9. And we want to see which one it is closer to. So we put in 4.85 as our value for x. So 4.85 cubed minus 6 times 4.85 equals, my apologies, this should be 88.249, and this answer is 84.98. So we can see that this is too high as well. Now, just to show it on a graphical sense, we have 4.8 here, we have 4.85 here, and we have 4.9. We can see that 4.8 is too low, we can see that 4.85 is too high, and we can also see that 4.9 is also too high, which means that the answer for this equation lies somewhere between 4.8 and 4.85. But because they want one decimal place, our answer is going to be 4.8. Our marking scheme for this question is, you get 1 mark for testing between 4 and 5. You get 1 mark for one other piece of trialing, so that'll be 4.8 and 4.9. And then you also get 2 marks for getting the answer, for knowing that it is 4.8. And I'll give you a total of 4 marks. Question 12 is all about graphing a cubic graph. And we can see that the linear equation, my apologies, the cubic equation tells us that y equals x cubed plus 2x minus 1. And they tell us in this table that we have values, and they want us to plot this graph between the values of x equals minus 2 and x equals 2. First thing we do is we can put minus 2 into this equation, and that will be like this here. So it'll be minus 2 cubed plus 2 times minus 2 minus 1. That equals minus 8 minus 4 minus 1 equals 13. Next thing they want us to do is put 0 into it. And we can see it straight away that if x equals 0, 0 cubed will be equal to 0. 2 times 0 is 0, so it'll just be minus 1. And then the final one that they want us to insert into the equation is if y equals x cubed plus 2x minus 1 and x equals 1, we can say that 1 cubed plus 2 times 1 minus 1 is what happens when we put 1 into it. We can see that this is 1 plus 2 minus 1, and that equals 2. So now we have a full table of values, and we can start plotting our graph. So if we have x equals minus 2 and y equals 13, we know that x equals minus 2 and y equals 13. So we go along to minus 2 and we go up as far as 13. Mark it with an x. Our next value is we go along to minus 1 and we go up to we go down to minus 4. So it's minus 1 down to minus 4, and that'll be right there. Again, marking with an x. X is equal to 0. X is equal to 0. and y is equal to minus 1. So we don't go anywhere on the x-axis, and we go down as far as minus 1. Our next value is going to be x equals 1 and y equals 2. So we go along as far as 1 and we go up as far as 2. And that's just going to be right there. And our final point is going to be 2, 11. So we go along as far as 2 and we go up to as far as 11. And we mark it with an X. Finally, the last thing they want us to do is draw the graph. Just join the dots. So our graph is going to look something like this. The marking scheme for question 12a is you get 2 marks for knowing all 3 marks, all 3 y values. You will lose 1 mark if you only get 2 values. And finally, you get 2 marks for plotting the correct shape of the graph. So from this point to this point, if you graph it like this, you will get full marks, giving you a total of 4 marks for question 12. Question 13 is a question about simultaneous equations. They want us to solve for x and y. First thing we do is we need to get one of the coefficients on each of the x's being equal. So what I've done here is I will multiply the bottom equation by 3 the whole way across. And this gives me a new equation, two equations and one new one. So we'll go back with the original top one. Is 3x plus 10y equals 7. And our new equation on the bottom is 3x minus 12y equals 18. Now we can subtract them and solve. So if we subtract, we can see that 3x and 3x cancel. 10y minus 12y equals 22y, and that equals 7 minus 18 equals minus 11. We want to get y on its own, so we can divide across by 22. Y equals minus a half. Now we put y back into one of our original equations. So I'm going to choose the bottom one. So it's x minus 4 times minus a half equals 6. And we're solving for x. So we expand our brackets first. So it's x minus 4 times minus a half is plus 2, and that equals 6. Solving our equation, we take 2 from each side, and that leaves us with x equals 4. So we know that x equals 4 and y equals minus a half. The marking scheme for this question is as follows. You get 1 mark for changing your equation to this and subtracting it correctly. You get 1 mark for substituting the y value back in, and then you get 1 mark for each of the values. My apologies, you get 1 mark for knowing the 2 values, giving you a total of 3 marks. Question 14 is all about transformations of shapes on our axes. So, tells us that triangle A is reflected in the x-axis to give triangle B. So let's do that first part. So, if we reflect triangle A across the x-axis, we know that it is going to be based here, here, and here. And triangle B will look like this. Next bit of information, it tells us that triangle B is then reflected in the line x equals 1 to give triangle C. So we should know that the line x equals 1 is the line that goes through 1 on the x-axis. And then it says that it's reflected across this line. So we know that this point here is reflected across this line here, and then we can set our shape up here, here, and here. Join our dots, and this is our triangle C. The main part of the question then is, it says, describe fully the single transformation that maps triangle A onto triangle C. So what they want us to show is that we know, and using graph paper, we can see that triangle A is obviously rotated about the point 0, 1 to 180 degrees. So to answer this question, our full answer is that the transformation is a rotation of 180 degrees about the point 1, 0. The scheme for question 14 is, you get 1 mark for plotting the two new triangles B and C. You get 1 mark for knowing it's a rotation, and you get 1 mark for knowing it's about the point 1, 0, giving you a total of 3 marks. Question 15 is a question that asks us to compare what happens to money when we invest it in different banks. It tells us that Ella has £6,000 in a savings account for two years. She wants to know which bank to put her money in and which bank is going to give her the most money. So first thing we do is divide our page into 2, and let's compare them. So it tells us that Northway Bank give you a compound interest of 3.8% per annum. So if we take our £6,000, and she wants to put it in for 2 years, remember, but we'll do 1 year at a time. So we can multiply it by 1.038, and this is for 3.8% per annum, and this will give us a value of that'll be 6,228, and that's how much she makes after 1 year. Same thing again with compound interest. You take the money that she's made, the total money, and same thing again for the second year. She's getting the same amount again. So you multiply it by 1.038, and that'll equal £6,464.66. And that's how much her investment will be after 2 years in Northway Bank. In Portland Bank, they tell her that she gets compound interest for 1 year at 5%. So let's do the first year again. So she puts it in for 1 year, £6,000 times 1.05, and that'll equal £6,300. And that was for year 1. If she puts the same amount of money in again, 6,300 for the second year at 3.2, she will multiply it by 1.032. And that'll equal £6,501.60. And clearly, the best investment is Portland Bank. So, the marking scheme for this question is you get 1 mark for each of the years that she puts it in, and then you get 1 mark for giving your answer. Portland Bank is the best option, giving you a total of 4 marks. Question 16 deals with standard form. First thing we should do is write this into 2 separate fractions. So we can say that 4 times 10 to the power of 9 all over 1.6 times 10 to the power of 6 plus 3.2 times 10 to the power of 7 all over 1.6 times 10 to the power of minus 6. Now, this makes it a little bit easier, and we can work with our normal numbers and our standard form numbers. So we know straight away that this, we can do 4 divided by 1.6 will give us 2.5. And we also know that when we're dividing by indices, it's going to be 10 to the power of 9 minus, it'll be 9 minus minus 6, which will be 10 to the power of 15. So that is this one here. Then we can do this fraction here. And we know that when we divide 3.2 by 1.6, that'll give us 2. And when we're dividing by indices, we subtract the powers, and it'll be 7 minus minus 6, so it'll be 10 to the power of 13. So our sum now becomes 2.5 by 10 to the power of 15 plus 2 times 10 to the power of 13. Now we know that it's easier to work with indices when they're the same power. So we can rewrite this as 2.5 times 10 to the power of 15 plus, if we increase this to 10 to the power of 15, this can be written as 0.02 times 10 to the power of 15. Makes it a lot easier. We can add our numbers together and keep our indices the same. So that becomes 2.5 plus 0.02 all to the power of 10 to the power of 15. That equals 2.52 times 10 to the power of 15. Marking scheme for 16 is as follows. You get 1 mark for reducing all of this down to this line here. And then you get your final mark for your answer, which is this. Question 17 is a question about inverse proportionality. It tells us that t is inversely proportional to d squared, and t is equal to 160 when d equals 8. Then it tells us find the value of t when d equals 0.5. The first thing you should know to write down is that t is inversely proportional to d squared. So that means that t is inversely proportional to 1 over d squared. Our next piece of work should be, then that means that t equals k over d squared. And manipulating this, we can see that k equals t d squared. So, putting our values for t and d in, we know that k equals 160 times 8 squared equals 160 times 64 equals 10240. So we know that k equals 10240. The next little bit, just to take it home, is t, and taking it from here, equals k over d squared. T equals 10240 all over 0.5 squared equals 10240 divided by 0.25, and that equals 40,960. Your marking scheme for this question is as follows. You get 1 mark for either of these statements. You get 1 mark for this section here, and then you get 1 mark for finding this answer here through this. So total marks for this question is 3 marks. Question 18 is telling us to solve the quadratic equation 5x squared plus 6x minus 2 equals 0. And we know that if they give you this, if they tell you to solve a quadratic and they tell you to give your solutions correct to 2 decimal places, you know you must use the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula can be found in the front page of your exam paper. And it's always there, and it is this equation here. So the first thing we do is we figure out what A, B, and C are in our equation. So we know that A is 5, B is 6, and C equals minus 2. So just to write that above here, A equals 5, B equals 6, and C equals minus 2. Then, using our equation, we can see that x equals, and using our equation here, and keeping it beside us at all time, x equals minus b, which is 6, minus b, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 36, minus 4 times AC, which is 5 times minus 2, all over 2 times 5. So we can rewrite this a little bit easier for ourselves. We know it's going to be minus 6 plus or minus root, which is 36, minus, so it's going to be minus 4 times 5, which is minus 20, minus 20 times minus 2 is minus 40, so it's going to be 36 plus 40 all over 10. Just to simplify it a little bit further, it's going to be minus 6 plus or minus square root of 76 all over 10. So our sum can then be written as minus 6, so x equals minus 6 plus the square root of 76 all over 10, or x equals minus 6 minus the square root of 76 all over 10. And then it's just a matter of using our calculator. So our calculator then will tell us that it is minus 6 plus 8.72 all over 10, and minus 6 minus 8.72 all over 10. And if we were to put these into a calculator, we would know that x equals 0.27 to 2 decimal places, and minus 1.47 also to 2 decimal places. The marking scheme for question 18 is you get 1 mark for the substitution, of A, B and C into our equation, you get 1 mark for breaking it down to this expression here, and then you get 1 mark for each of the answers here, giving you a total of 3 marks. So question 19 is all about our trigonometry skills, and they're testing 2 skills here: our ability to use the area of a triangle formula, which is also on our formula sheet, area of a triangle formula, and they're also testing our knowledge of the cosine rule. But we'll come to the cosine rule in a minute. So our area of a triangle is a half of AB times sine C. And just for comfort's sake, we will label this B, A, and C. These are sides A, B, and C. So, in this case then, they also tell us that the area of the triangle is 50 centimeters squared. So, we can say that a half of A, which is 12.3, times B, times sine of C, which is the sine of 73, equals 50 centimeters squared. The next thing we do is we just multiply everything out. So when we multiply everything out, this can be broken down to 6.15b times sine 73 equals 50 centimeter squared. And this will equal 5.88127 times b equals 50. So we know that b equals 50 divided by 5.88127, and that equals 8.5015 centimeters. So far we know that this side here is 8.5015 centimeters. The next thing we do, I'm just going to put a box around this so we can separate it. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to use the cosine rule to find our missing side C. So using our cosine rule, we can say that C squared equals 12.3 squared plus 8.5015 squared minus 2 times 12.3 times 8.5015 times cos of 73, and that'll equal our missing side C squared, our missing side all squared. So this can be broken down to 223.5655 minus 61.145. My apologies, it's all there now. So that all that breaking down can equal this here. And C squared equals 162.4205. C equals the square root of 162.425. C equals 12.744, and to 3 significant figures, we know that 12.744 can be reduced down to 12.73 sig figs. Marking scheme is quite simple. 6 marks are quite a lot of chunks, quite a lot of points for this question here. You can get 1 mark for this part here, knowing that you use the area of a triangle formula. Next mark you get is finding out what all of that is, and your third mark is going to be finding out what AB is. Your fourth mark then is knowing that you use the cosine rule. Your fifth mark is for substituting it all in here and getting this mark here, and then your final mark is for reducing it to 3 sig figs. Question 20 tests our knowledge of vectors. It says OAB is a triangle. Here's a triangle here, and they say N is a point on AB such that AN and MB are in the ratio of 3:1. They also tell us that OA, the vector OA, is the same as saying 2A, and our vector OB is 4B. First question is, they want to find AB in terms of A and B. So AB is this line here. Knowing our vectors knowledge, we know that if we want to go from here to here in terms of A and B, we have to go back on 2A and forward on 4B. So we can write that as minus 2A plus 4B. Part B we cannot do unless we get a correct answer for part A. So using part A, we can see then that we want to go from O to N, which is this line here. And we also know that this line here is divided up into the ratio of 3:1. AB is divided up into the ratio of 3:1. Now, the way I've done it is we have to go that way and that way, and we're going to do it in terms of A and B. So we have to go this way and this way. Now, first thing you should notice is that this line here from here to here is 3/4 of this. And then we go back on 2A. So our our vector for ON is going to be minus 2A minus 3/4 of 4B minus 2A. Then we just multiply it out. So then our vectors become minus 2A minus 3/4 of 4B, which will be 12B over 4, and minus times minus will give you a plus, and 3/4 of 2A is 6 over 4, not forgetting our A. Then we can break this down again further, so it's minus 2A minus 3B plus 1.5A, because all we're doing is dividing 6 by 4. Collecting our like terms then, it becomes minus 2A plus 1.5A minus 3B. And our final answer will give us minus 0.5A minus 3B. And that's our answer. The marking scheme for this question is you get 1 mark for just being able to do this here, and you have to get that right to get on to the second part. The second part, you get one mark for writing this bit here. You get another mark for this section here, and then you get a final mark for the correct answer. And the correct answer is minus 0.5A minus 3B. 21 deals with lower bounds and rounding up and down in figures. So the first part, they just want us to write the lower bound of D, and D is written as 35.63 SF. So for 3 significant figures. Now we know that the lower bound of D, if we were to round this up, could be 35.55. And if you were to round this number to 3 significant figures, you would get this. So the answer for the first part is 35.55. Second part of question 21 wants us to find the lower bound of T when T equals the square root of 2D all over G. So to find this is T equals the square root of 2 times 35.6 my apologies, 35.55, because we have this from here, so we're taking our lower bound. So we want to find the lower bound of T, and it's 2 times 35.55. But the trap that a lot of students will fall into is they will use the lower bound of G as well, and if you divide by a lower number than a higher number, you will get a higher number. So what we do here is we divide it by 9.85. So we use the upper bound of 9.85. And that equals the square root of 71.1 all over 9.85. And that equals to square root of 7.2182 74112. And if we were to put this into a calculator, we'll get our answer to be 2.686684. And we can calculate that the lower bound of 2.68668 is the answer. And the marking scheme for this question is as follows. You get 1 mark for giving a correct answer here. Then you get 1 mark for 9.5. You get 1 mark for this whole section here. And then you get 1 mark for the correct answer.